Nostalgia is a strange beast.
Hello.
I suppose you get to see the mystic.
Yes, at some point.
Growing up with a box full of budget titles for a system that was born of budgeting, I grew up loving games that were, for the most part, cack. One game that I was absolutely obsessed with at a very early age was, I thought, The Birds and the Bees. I say I thought because when I loaded it up, I recognised it, but I didn't recognise it. Something was off. I recognised the grotesque cover art in which a bee is given an unnecessarily human face.
Let me teach you about the birds and the bees, baby.
I recognised the graphics, including this bee with an enormous dump truck, and these stupid birds. The gameplay, though? No, I didn't recognise this at all. Birds and the Bees is a straight-up arcade game in which you, Boris B. from Birkenhead, yes, that's right, must collect pollen, avoid enemies, and return the collected pollen to your hive. The game looks basic, but surprisingly well animated. Weirdly well animated. In fact, I know it probably doesn't look like much now, but there's a strange amount of life given to the creatures on display here. And just look at that sun. That creepy, ever-watching sun. That's nice, isn't it?
I'm too hot for you, baby.
Authored by Adrian Sho, and it's interesting to note here that Matthew Smith was the man behind the graphical touches on display. That's Matthew Smith of Manic Miner fame, not Matthew Smith of Doctor Who fame. Stop being silly. There's not an awful lot to say about the game, all being told. It actually plays surprisingly well. Dodging past the giant ostrich things takes some skill. The frame rate swings enjoyably from fast as balls to embarrassingly sluggish, depending on how many enemies are on screen, giving it this sort of slow-motion bullet time effect when you're trying to outrun a horde of angry nonsenses. And even the music is a jolly, if simple, lark. The game reviewed pretty well too, 83% from Crash Magazine, which is nothing to be sniffed at. So why do I not remember? Why is this game tickling my nostalgia testicles but not stiffening my sentimentality stick? Did I just think I used to love this game? Yes, that's exactly what the issue was, because it turns out that I didn't even own The Birds and the Bees. I just thought I did. What I actually owned was The Birds and the Bees 2, otherwise known as Antics. Now that's the cover I remember. So why did I also recognise the cover for Birds and the Bees? Because it was advertised in the inlay. The graphics? Chunks of them were ported across from the original game. But the music? Oh, the music. There was always something melancholy, something foreboding about this track that didn't quite line up with the gameplay, and it always stuck with me. This is a light and jolly game. I mean, once again, just look at that cover. Now look at that cover with this music. It's not quite right, and the same can be said about the entire game. It's just not quite right. In the same way that Chucky Egg hatched into the grotesquely overcomplicated Chucky Egg 2, and the way Manic Miner vomited itself into the sprawling levels of Jet Set Willy, Antics takes the previous game and tries to expand it into an exploration adventure. Tasked with rescuing Boris B from the original game, this time you're playing as Barnaby, his cousin. Cousin? Can bees even have cousins? Antics is factually inaccurate before it even gets started. However, that's not the worst of Antics' issues. It's mainly the whole game that's the problem. Instead of flapping around above ground, you need to delve into the ant's nest to find your cousin. You have no way to attack. You simply fly around with the sort of physical weight that you could well imagine a bee actually having. There's a great sense that you're dragging your fat bee arse off the ground with some level of difficulty. Even when you're not flying, you're dragging your arse along the floor like a dog that's eaten a packet of mustard.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
There are two entrances into the ant's nest, and within these you'll find creatures of all kinds, from ladybirds to ants to other things that aren't even insects, but 90% of them will do absolutely nothing. They don't chase after you, they don't drain your health, they don't get in your way, they just seem to exist. The only two things, in fact, that seem to do anything at all are ladybirds and ants. Ants will just drain your health outright, and ladybirds will bounce you back a bit. That's it. Areas within Antics are claustrophobic. There's very little room to move, and the behaviour of the ants, the mortal enemy of all bees, apparently. Again, I don't think this is factually accurate either. Oh, okay, that one is true. Anyway, ants. Their behaviour pattern is move toward you. This becomes a problem of attrition then, because coupled with the fact that there's almost no way to avoid the buggers, your best bet is to just quickly fly through them and try to replenish your health using some of the flowers dotted around. That sounds fantastic, I hear you cry, which sounds suspiciously like something a bee would say. But it's not fantastic, because these things are limited, and they're specifically tied to progress. You see, in order to get further and further into the ants realm, you have to open up secret pathways. There's two ways of doing this. One of them is to hug walls and hope you found a secret. You know, when you're trying to find a secret in Doom and you hug the walls and keep pressing the action button until you find something? It's a bit like that, only it's the whole game. That's not ideal, but equally, certain flowers do the same thing. This wouldn't be so bad if it didn't require you to backtrack the entire length of the game almost every single time. Those two entrances to the ant's nest, yeah, you'll be popping in and out of those quite a lot, because touching a flower in one will generally see progress being made in the other. That means you have to go all the way back through all of the bloody ants you've just bumbled past to get here. It doesn't take long to realise that the game simply isn't all that great, but let me bring it back around to the start of the video. Nostalgia. It's a strange beast. Dashing and daring, courageous. I put countless hours into this game as a kid. I haven't played it since I was about 9 years old, and yet I knew without doubt where half of these secret walls were. I recognised each and every screen. I got the same feeling of disturbed foreboding when I heard one note of that constantly droning music. Antics is not a good game, regardless of the fact Crash Magazine decided to give it 90%. It takes what worked in the original and inflates it into something unwieldy and boring. But despite all of that, I was hooked back into it. Seeing these screens in front of me again after 30 years brought back that forgotten spark of imagination, the curiosity of what the game would bring with each new screen discovered. I stuck with Antics not because it was a great game, but because the joy of discovery was still alive and well in my mind. I don't lament the fact I've lost the ability to do that as I've gotten older. Better games have come and gone, even within the year Antics came about, but it's curious how something as random as a sequel to a game I never even owned is still lodged in the back of my brain. Its pathways laid out in my mind map just in case I ever need them again. I mean, logging into a recently created account with a password I've literally just thought of, that I struggle with, but the intricacies of a game about a bee rescuing his bee cousin from ants all up here, mate.